Every Thursday, we open the files, not on the killers, not on the victims, but on the ones who told it all. The scared, the slick, the straight up sloppy. From cold cases to courtroom confessions, if they snitched, we're spilling it. This is the Snitch Files, a weekly dive into true crime's biggest talkers, one name, one story, every Thursday. And if you know a snitch that deserves a moment, send them in. Any case, anytime. If they flipped, we're listening. Because loose lips make great content. Welcome to the Snitch Files, only on Melanin Mysteries.
All right, Cuzzos. Today's episode is not about rumors, not about internet labels, and definitely not about feelings. This one is about paperwork, baby. That good old paperwork. Today we're talking about Frank Lucas, man. One of my favorite Denzel Washington movies, by the way. Just throwing it out there, man. American Gangster. Anyway, a name a lot of people know because of the movie American Gangster. You know, the movie version and the real life version is not the same thing. So today we separating cinema from court records. So let's talk about Frank Lucas. Frank Lucas rose to power in Harlem in late 1960s and early 1970s following the death of Bumpy Johnson. That's another good show, man. I'm telling you, good shit. What made Frank Lucas different wasn't just ambition, it was strategy. At the time, the heroin distribution in New York was largely controlled by the Italian organized crime families, right? Most dealers had to go through them, pay, them inflated their prices and accept whatever quality they were giving them. They say back in the day was trash, right? Frank Lucas decided to go around them completely. He said, I don't need you. Instead of working with the Italians, Frank went directly to Southeast Asia, Vietnam, during the Vietnam War era, right? You know what I'm saying? Using military supply routes and corrupt contracts, he was arranging for raw heroin to be shipped straight into the United States. That move allowed him to cut out the middleman, right? Control purity, lower prices, and flood the market. There was a black man doing all this shit. I just want to throw that out there, man. A black man. His product was known as Blue Magic, was stronger, cheaper, and more consistent than anything else on the street. That decision didn't make him rich. It made him a threat. Now, this is the part that people don't like to talk about. And here's something that doesn't get said enough. At the time, law enforcement had organized crime alike did not believe that a black dude was capable of pulling off something of this magnitude. The idea that a black man from Harlem could bypass the Italian mafia, build an international supply chain, source raw heroin from Vietnam, and run a multi-million dollar operation. Y'all just went back in the 60s and 70s. It just didn't fit the narrative. Black dealers were expected to be, street level, like disorganized and disposable, right? Not strategic, not global, not corporate, right? The understatement is part of why Frank Lucas lasted as long as he did. But once they realized what he had built, the response was aggressive because it wasn't just about drugs anymore. It was about power and embarrassment. At his peak, Frank Lucas was making millions of dollars and running a tightly controlled organization, right? This wasn't reckless hustling. This was a system. A system attracts attention. So in the mid 1970s, federal authorities arrested Frank Lucas and charged him with drug trafficking, conspiracy, and running a continuing criminal enterprise. He was sentenced to 70 years, y'all. 70 damn years in prison. That's a lot, right? That's not symbolic. That's the rest of your life. And at that moment, Frank Lucas was staring down the possibility of dying behind bars. So, in the movie American Gangster, remember? Frank Lucas is portrayed as calm, principled, operating by a personal moral code. The movie highly suggested that his cooperation was limited, that he mainly exposed corrupt police officers and didn't really portray anyone close to him. But that's where, Hollywood steps in, right? So this will actually happen. In real life, Frank Lucas entered into a formal cooperation agreement with federal prosecutors. This cooperation was not limited. Frank Lucas provided detailed information, testified under oath, explained how his operation worked, and the nigga named names. And that included people close to him, not just corrupt NYPD officers, not just rivals. Frank Lucas cooperated against members of his own organization, trusted associates, people who helped him build his empire. This was inner circle cooperation. Because of Frank Lucas' testimony, corrupt NYPD officers were convicted, members of his drug network went to prison, and one of the largest corporation scandals in New York history was exposed. This wasn't symbolic cooperation. This was successful cooperation that produced real convictions. Like that nigga got a lot of dudes arrested, right? Now let's be clear. No, let's clear up some things. Let's clear up something that always get twisted. Frank Lucas did not cooperate and walk free. Even after his sentence was reduced, he remained incarcerated until 1991. That means he served roughly 15 years in federal prison. I ain't like the nigga snitching, really. I mean, he got some time off, but he was still in jail. He did some real time. He paid his real consequences, but he did not serve 70. Right? The legal system doesn't ask, did you still do time? It asks, did you cooperate, testify, and benefit? Frank Lucas did all three. His sentence was reduced because he cooperated. People, including people closer to him, real close to him, went to jail because he testified. That is snitching by legal definition. Whether you think it was justified or not, it's a separate conversation. Frank Lucas outmaneuvered the Italians. He built an empire. He changed the drug game. And when faced with 70 years, he chose survival. And survival meant cooperation. This isn't about mortality, it's about paperwork. And the paperwork is clear. Damn. And with that being said, y'all, we want to thank you for listening to the Snitch File. But unfortunately, this is going to be the last one we do for a minute, right? You know what I'm saying? But don't panic. We good because we got some other stuff coming for y'all. You know what I'm saying? Now, we may drop a Snitch Files every once in a while, but it's not going to be every week. You know what I'm saying? So make sure that you just stay tuned in and you check out. We got some good stuff coming.